going over the topic that I'm going to be going over tonight, I realize that it is indeed quite not a very easy topic to understand, not a very easy topic to present, so that there can be some realistic understanding of it. But at the same time, it is the two topics that seems to be people seem to tend to believe that they have, oh, that's very easy to understand, next, move to the next one. Okay, so we're going to try to go as deeply as we can into them. Okay, it's the topics of refuge and karma. And you will notice that there's an actual connection between all the different topics that we talked about before, how they build on each other, how the next topic actually depends on understanding of the previous topic, and how the previous topic, how the next topic actually enhances the understanding of the previous topic. So if you find yourself needing to understand, for example, oh, how is this connected to the topic of leisure and fortune, for example, the opportunities that our life presents to us with the topic that, any topic that we talk about moving forward. So I would really like, I think the best way for this talk, this session to continue tonight is if it's really like a conversation, even though I've promised to make or a lot of these talks to be more like dialogue, conversation, and I completely take over and monopolize the talk. But I really would like us to let it be like a question answer kind of thing, because some of the questions that you will have are probably some of the questions that a lot of people have in their minds. And if we address them directly this way, that way it will help probably those other people who may have these questions to be able to have a clearer understanding. Okay, and perhaps if it's just me talking, I may not necessarily address some of the questions that you may already have, because I think a lot of us already have questions, or perhaps we have what we think are already clear understandings of these two topics. And to begin with, there is a reason why it is said that karma, the fine workings of karma, is something that only a fully enlightened being can fully grasp and fully understand. But it doesn't mean that we should completely dismiss it and have no understanding and not try to understand it. The main reason for understanding karma is we need to see ourselves actually taking action. We need to see ourselves actually taking steps, taking measures. If we don't see ourselves actually taking measures, then there's either a misunderstanding of karma, or we haven't really fully understand why karma is even presented in the stages of the path. Right? So we'll go into what is refuge itself, what does it mean to take refuge, and the causality, which is what karma is supposed to be about. Okay, and how is it supposed to be understood? Unfortunately, our wonderful host, Nizam, is not able to host tonight, so we are left alone, abandoned. But since Nizam, when we read, Nizam didn't, unfortunately, and Nizam and I didn't really have much of a conversation. about the email that was sent out for tonight's topic. I simply told him, "Oh, the next topic is karma and refuge," and left it at that. So that's probably why Nizam didn't do his magic with the wordings, with the language. Okay, all right. So we'll begin the way we usually begin, with a meditation. And I did say that we will do these talks on the stages of the path with somewhat of at least the going into the essential, the spirit of how they are traditionally taught. Okay, but we'll do the meditation. All right. So I don't know if you're noticing it, how the camera is keep moving my my image around. I have to say I have no idea how to control this, and never make time to actually control this. But whenever I move, the camera does something with my image. It moves it to here, moves it there. Comes to my, see, as I'm moving it, it's doing it. It's centering me, putting me into the left, putting me to the right. Sorry, I have to say I don't know how to control this. So I'll try to remain as still as I can, which is impossible, so that it doesn't do these strange things. But the thing with the hand, sorry, I can't help it. Okay. All right. So let's begin. Uh, Meditation. So hold in your conscious or conscious intention that you're going to enter meditation, and let your inner, innate, spontaneous understanding of what it is to come to the surface. It doesn't have to be conceptualized, but just feel it. In fact, don't conceptualize it if you can. And allow the different dimensions of your being, the physical, the energetic, the emotional, the intellectual, allow all those different dimensions of our being to respond to this intention to enter meditation. And feel a sense of being in the center, and begin to experience the alignment of all these dimensions, aligning themselves, coalescing themselves, joining themselves with this one intention to enter meditation. So that through all these dimensions, there is this one thread of experience that can be said to be meditation, experience in their own realms, in their own places, according to their own realm, like the physical sense of being in meditation, the energetic sense of being in meditation, the emotional, and so forth. There's a intelligence within the body itself. Connect with it just by being open. And when you feel the need to make an adjustment in the physical body, know that it's due to communication with that intelligence guiding you. And after you've made your adjustment, whether it's physical, whether it's macro, whether it's some tiny adjustment that only you can observe, consider that to be due to communication with that innate intelligence. And deliberately scan the body, either starting from the head to your feet or from your feet to the head, but in some sequential way. Until you have this confidence that the body is ready. It feels stable. It feels pleasant, comfortable. Oh, what's happening? And there's a sense that the body is entering in meditation in its own way of experiencing meditation. And once you feel that confidence in the body, then go to the breath. And just observe the breath. Seek to connect with the intelligence that may be in the breath. Until there is a sense of the breath itself touching in the meditative state, in its own realm, in its own way of experiencing meditation. There's a calm taking place. There's a pleasantness with the very dynamic of breathing. And that connects you to an energetic experience. And gently become aware of the experience of the mind, the emotion, the different aspects of the mind touching meditation. A sense of mental calmness, a sense of mental pleasantness, and a freeing of holding that spontaneously is being experienced as inner sensations arising without seeming agency. Tactile, visual, some connected to some of your senses. And once you feel a sense of alignment with all the different dimensions and a slight shift in the very behavior of the breath, that's an indication of a readiness, of a certain degree of alignment. And with that, you make a definite, strong will intention to really commit to the meditation. And gently, fully through the nose, breathe in. Hold the breath for a few seconds while you're relaxing, strengthening intention, and release. And as you're releasing, notice a sense of melting taking place, a sense of going deeper into the calm in the body, in the breath, in the mind, a sense of going deeper into the pleasantness in the body, the breath, and the mind. And at the end of the exhalation, just try to stay where you've reached, where the breath has landed, and leave the breath alone. And now you're doing your breathing within that new space, a newer calm, a newer pleasantness. Inner sensations, if they were not present, they're beginning to be present, or if they are present, they keep becoming clearer, brighter, stronger, more present, more vivid. And within this level, we will take another deep breath. Gently, fully breathe in. Hold the breath, relaxing, strengthening clarity, strengthening intention, and release. And as you release again, letting go, notice the letting go as if melting into deeper into calm, deeper into pleasantness, physically, energetically, mentally. And at the end of that exhalation, notice the new depth, the new calm, the new pleasantness, the new vividness, the new distinctiveness of experience. Rejoice. And again, for the third time, as a sign of true commitment to this journey, another deep conscious breath. Breathe in, hold, relaxing, strengthening determination, and release. And really see yourself completely dissolving, melting, allowing for calm and pleasantness to be stronger, to be more present. and witnessing the inner experiences becoming clearer, brighter, and rejoicing. So this measure of calm, this measure of pleasantness, this measure of clarity and radiance that we are experiencing as distinct appearance and vividness of experience, and a sense of attention being collected. That's the shadow of the crumbs of natural state. These were not created. We didn't bring things together to create them. There was things that were almost just there already, waiting to be discovered. And continue with just that, letting go. Whatever concept is appearing, no matter how beautiful, no matter how profound it may appear to be, let it go and see and experience the space that is left, a deeper calm, a deeper pleasantness, a deeper clarity, a deeper radiance, a stronger sense of collected attention. And consider for a moment that whatever experiences that we are having, whatever perceptions that we are experiencing, understanding that they all arise from this fundamental ground, which is itself not physical but not physical, which is itself not awareness but not awareness. And let a yearning go to that fundamental basis, to have a more intimate, direct experience of it as it actually is. And that very yearning molds this fundamental ground into a pure appearance, an appearance that instantly upon perceiving it, you feel inspired, you feel protected, you feel infallibly guided. It is your own nature taking a form to guide, to directly experience it. So turn towards it, let it protect you, let it guide you, trust it, revere it. And express gratitude to it. and as a way of, as a skillful means of feeling closeness. That appearance comes to the crown of our heads, sends waves of light, transformative blessings, removing obscurations, and filling us with capacities to understand. That these topics are not absolute foreign they're not foreign phenomena, but actually our own intimate nature to be revealed. And as a further skillful means of the closeness of that source that will make that possible, now that presence at the crown of our head becomes a spark of light, descends through the crown of our heads, into the very center of our being, merging with our consciousness. And just stay in that for a few moments. And muster as much compassion as you can. Let that be the intent, let that guide your intention for how you listen. So it can serve a greater vision, just the act of listening. Okay, get ready to come out of the meditation. First, be aware that you're indeed in meditation. Notice the signs, the calm, the pleasantness, the clarity, the radiance, the collected measure of collected attention. No matter what the measure, notice them, rejoice. Now make the intention to come out. And with that intention, take a nice deep breath. Hold with the intention to come out. And as you release the breath, deliberately reconnect with your immediate surroundings. Begin to feel the environment through the sense of touch, the temperature, the feel of the clothing, your seat. Deliberately know the different sounds. Deliberately notice colors, shapes, lights, and shadows. All right. Okay, so when I said that I want this to be, I'm serious this time, and and this time is true. I really would like this to be a conversation where you ask questions. Okay, so I'll begin with just by introducing a little bit more. I already did that earlier, but I'm going to introduce a little bit more, just to give us at least a framework or foundation for us to be able to ask questions. Okay. The Lamrim begins with, at least within the Gelugpa tradition, it begins with acknowledging how the importance of transmission and the act of transmission. And from that, then we were essentially opening our minds allowing our minds to be open to our reality. Where are we? What can we do with where we are? And what are the possibilities for us in the future? Where we are, that's where the leisures and fortune came in. And the reason for the leisure and fortune is essentially uh, helping us have one of the fundamental requirements to be able to have to be able to stay on the path, which is a good anchor in joy. That it is in it we are indeed fortunate, and and what we are able to do with this fortune is actually just incredible. Okay, then we looked at uh, the natural tendencies that we have with uh, not natural tendencies only, but also natural tendencies in relationship to the nature of our reality, the nature of things in our reality, the nature of opportunities, the nature of time, how they are constantly arising, staying, ending, and that itself is an impossibility, but that is an experience that we have. They arise, they seem to stay, and then they go away. So opportunities come, opportunities seem to stay for some time, and the opportunities go away. And there's this innate understanding of that especially when we know when we are experiencing an opportunity that seems to provide to promise us something that we want. We put aside everything, we prioritize it, and then we engage in it with the understanding that it's not going to be here forever. And when we do that, we don't become dysfunctional by understanding that opportunities are temporary. We actually um, um, behave in a realistic way, and we actually end up with a sense of satisfaction, you could say, right? But there is a dysfunctional relationship that we witness, that is also present with this reality of constant change, the reality of impermanence, the reality that there is eventually a time when there will be a cessation of something, a cessation of our appearance as a human being, the cessation of what we might call health, a cessation of what of planets, and we tend to have somehow this capacity to engage this truth without any anxiety, without any dysfunctionality. Somehow we find ourselves incapable of dealing with this, and we deal with it in a dysfunctional way. Okay, uh, when we and the aim of it is to realizing that we have a fortune, and that fortune is not gonna the nature of this fortune is temporary, and then the immediate thing to do is to make use of this fortune. Okay, so basically live your life meaningfully. And we the very last one, we saw, okay, what are the possibilities of what are the possible ways of existing, what are the possible ways of experiencing existence. That's why I went into the different realms of existence. And when we go deeper into karma, understanding karma, that will help us understand causality in terms of these different ways of experiencing. There are different ways, the different kinds of experiences that we can have in existence. Okay. Um, Now, the the reason for a refuge to come right after is to the basic reason for refuge is reorientation. Okay, it is understanding the innate tendency of mind or consciousness, or the innate tendency of the psychological innate tendency for needing safety, needing meaning, and there is this moving towards safety. There is this innate moving towards meaning, whether we are consciously aware of it or not, whether we phrase it in that way or not. But it is an innate quality of consciousness. It's an innate psychological quality. Okay, if there is a mind, if there is a consciousness, there is part of its nature is seeking safety, seeking meaning. And in this search for meaning, in this search for safety, then we anchor our dependencies on what we hope will be able to provide us with the safety, with what we hope will be able to provide us with meaning. Okay, so this act of turning towards what we hope will give us meaning, will give us safety, that is the act of refuge. That's what refuge means. Okay. And once we've reorient ourselves in what we with what we have determined to be true providers of safety, true providers of meaning, then an explanation is given as to mainly that don't become discouraged when you are making attempts at arriving at the safety, when you're making attempts at arriving at this meaning, that your efforts are meaningless, that your efforts are useless, but your efforts are actually useful and actually will have consequences, will bear fruit. Okay, so you could say that is the main reason for presenting karma. Unfortunately, the term itself, I guess in people in trying to understand the term, there are a lot of misunderstandings have come up, where it seems where it is saying that people are putting words into the Buddha's mouth, saying this is what he meant by karma, and people, it seems like it's like the substitute for I don't know. Where did all this come from? I don't know. But instead of saying I don't know, they say karma. Okay. Well, karma is not a substitute for I don't know. Okay. If you really don't know, don't say karma. Okay. Unless you're able to explain in an intricate way the workings of karma. Okay. Best to say I don't know, and that will be a true response. Okay. All right. So there's a social, cultural, especially with refuge, there's a social, cultural understanding. There's a social, cultural explanation that has to be given, because when we are moving through different cultures, we are moving through different societies that have different that have a social construct for that term refuge. The social cultural construct is that now when when you formally do what is called take refuge in Buddhism, it is said that's how you become a Buddhist. So you're not a Buddhist because your parents are Buddhists. You're not a Buddhist. You're not a Buddhist because you were born in a Buddhist culture. You're a Buddhist when you reorient, when you make a definite decision to reorient your anchor, what you depend on for safety in an ultimate way, what you depend on for meaning in an ultimate way. And when that which you anchor yourself in is what I refer to as the three jewels, the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. And for those Sanskrit sensitive ears out there, sorry. Okay. So these are the three jewels. And the reason that they're called jewels is because the way we understand a jewel is a rare phenomena, that the entire earth is not made out of jewels. Jewels are rare. And because of their rarity, we ascribe a lot of value to them. Okay. So these three are rare and they're valuable, extremely valuable. Valuable in a sense that they can provide the safety that you want. They can provide the meaning that you want. Okay. Now, what are they? So before we go into that, so in the social cultural context is that, so at some point in your life, either in a formal way, and usually it's done in a formal way in the presence of someone who has received the transmission, and the transmission meaning that you can search that as to the exact the tracing of that act of taking refuge, where while the Buddha was when the Buddha was around, when after he gave a lecture or talk to someone, either that was sparked by a curiosity, sparked by some sort of interaction, where then the Buddha, the person listening became convinced of what the Buddha said, and the person said, "Okay, now I'm taking you. I'm taking my directions for my existence from in you." Okay, and this is where the formal ceremony of taking refuge comes from. It's simply just repeating, I take refuge in the fully enlightened one. I take refuge in the doctrine or his teachings, and I take refuge in the community that he has established. That's the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. But the Buddha is not just a person. There is a prayer that, for lack of a better word, Buddhists don't really have prayers per se, but for lack of a better word for what these things are, the closest thing that is there's something in religious institutions called prayers. So they call them prayers, but they're not prayers in exactly the same way that in other religions that they have prayers. Okay, so there is this. Sometimes they call it the blessing. Before you eat something, they said, "Tumbalame Sangye Rinpoche," to the highest teacher, Tumbalame Sangye Rinpoche, the precious highest teacher, Tumbalame Sangye Rinpoche, Kyobalame Damcho Rinpoche. Kyobalame Damcho Rinpoche is to the highest of protection, and Is that to the highest of companions, to the best of companions. Okay, so that's the three, the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha. Someone who is a teacher in an infallible way, that is, they have direct access to truth, and they're able to speak, they're able to communicate it in a way that is skillful. That's the Dharma. That's communication of it. The actual Dharma is when we actually put into practice, when we actually do the transformation, when we actually turn our minds towards what is being presented. Okay, that's the Dharma, the highest. That's what the Dharma is called, the highest of protection. Okay, your behavior is your either your protection or your punisher. The kinds of the way you view the world, that's your highest protection or your worst punisher. Okay, so when your behavior, when your view of the world is in alignment with actual reality, it's not just our fantasies about reality, then that is our protection. That is our highest form of protection. Okay, and when you are with a community of those who are actually supporting this, they're the best companions you can have. Okay, because they will not lead you. They're not people who are deluded, who are leading you into their delusion, to further experience delusion, but people who are making sincere efforts in the same direction that you are, and we can learn from each other. We can learn from each other's mistakes, and we can learn from each other's strength and realizations also. So that's the social cultural understanding of refuge. When we and because of that first person who said, "I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in," and understood what that person understood what he or she meant when she or she said that. When that person now uh, uh, says that to someone else, and that someone else takes the understanding and repeats it and reorients themselves towards that, then that is the transmission of the refuge formula. Okay, so that is you could say, the social cultural way of taking refuge. But the real taking refuge, you don't really need another person to say the words and for you to receive them. But we have to be realistic. At what level will we consider something to be real? Real meaning that inspire us to actually take action. And we have to be real with that. And to that level, we will act accordingly. Like, for example, there is an innate guru, right? And it sounds like a voice in your head. But to what degree is that voice in your head just your delusions? Or to what degree is it actually some sort of clarity? And to what degree, or is it just pride? Or is it just laziness or fear to actually take instructions from an outer person? Or is it true connection with some innate truth? So if indeed there is an actual connection to truth, an inner guru, then you'll need an outer guru. But if there is a sense of if it's in reality your own the voice is the inner landscape doesn't feel as real to you as the outer landscape, then you need an outer guru, so to speak. So there is a sense of appreciating the realness of it. Okay. And eventually you arrive at a point where inner and outer are meaningless. Okay. Doesn't matter if it's inner, doesn't matter if it's outer, there's no real outer, there's no real inner. Okay. But at what point, at what level are we at actually? Okay. Where there is a strong sense of ascribing realness. All right. Uh, I know it's supposed to be. I'm monopolizing again. Okay, so refuge. Uh, so consider uh, the first one, the perfect teacher, as the example. What you feel is the most healthiest way of being, psychologically, existentially. That is, and it is something that we, at the core of our being, we accept as being uh, a a real a possible reality. Okay, and the means of achieving that, and the very ground that makes it possible to be the Dharma. And when we understand that to be the very ground to be that makes it possible, like for example, when we sincerely understand interdependence to be the very glue or the very ground of reality, then we act accordingly. We understand that when there's a push, there's when there's a pull, there's a push taking place. It is inevitable. Okay. Um, and also a sense of openness and a sense of possibility, that our identity is not fixed, our identity is fluid. We can experience existence in a suffering way, but we are also free. We are free to experience existence in a suffering way, and we're also free to experience existence in a way that is blissful and free. Okay? All these are possibilities of the very ground of reality. Okay? And uh, and the companions along the way, they can be actual people, it can be books that people have written, and also the tendencies within us, the psychological, the emotional tendencies that nurture and encourage for us to go towards the direction of true transformation, meaningful transformation. That's also the Sangha. So there's outer refuge, inner refuge, and secret refuge. Outer refuge is someone else who achieved that, like Buddha Shakyamuni, like Lama Tsongkhapa, like Longchenpa, like Dalai Lama. So actual examples of, of this ideal, healthy way of existing. The outer Dharma are the other people's words, other people's explanations, that with the books that we study, the 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 lectures that we attend. That's the outer Dharma. And then, of course, the actual people that we congregate with, the actual people that we are in fellowship with, that's the outer Sangha. Also, Sangha jewel itself. So there's a distinction between Sangha and Sangha jewel. Sangha jewel is someone in that community who's actually achieved Aryahood. That is, they've had a direct perception of the ground of reality. The ground of reality is no longer for them an intellectual understanding, but rather a direct experience that they've had. And once you've had that, you become an Arya jewel, a Sangha jewel. Okay, and also for the social, cultural understanding of that. So, four fully ordained monks, or four, I think some countries still have that, four fully ordained people together make a jewel, make a Sangha jewel. Okay, that is why certain monastic rites cannot be performed if there isn't a Sangha, if there isn't a quorum. Okay, so four of them who are keeping their vows properly, who are keeping their practices properly, together they make they become a Sangha jewel. Okay, but one person who has had the direct experience of the true nature of reality, that person become a Sangha jewel. Okay, all right. So that's the outer. The inner are the potentials to be to become a Buddha, the potential of the mind to actually be able to transcend its limitations, and the skillful adaptations of different habits and different measures, and the potential for the mind to actually realize its true nature, or the true nature of the mind. That is the inner dharma. And the inner sangha, it's our compassionate tendencies, but at the same time, our own capacity to be our own validator. That's the inner sangha. And the secret is basically that ultimate ground itself, the very ground of reality, called either shunyata, emptiness, or luminous, blissful awareness by some others. So it is that openness that makes space, time, experience, all kinds of experience, realms, planets possible. Okay, that is the secret jewel. And to orient ourselves towards that is taking refuge. And when we reorient ourselves towards that, then what we are doing is that we are saying that we will no longer trust unreliable sources anymore. We will no longer trust things that whose very nature makes them unreliable. Okay, like relationships, material wealth, all the different kinds of things that we rely on, social identity, all these kinds of things. We rely on them for safety, to give us a sense of safety. We rely on them. We place our trust in them. We depend on them because we believe that they'll make our lives meaningful. But this is because these very things themselves are unstable. These very things themselves are incapable of continuing themselves because they are mere appearances based on conditions. Then they cannot provide the safety, they cannot provide the meaning that we would like them to give us. Okay, so that then does that mean we stop using these things? No, it means that we do not depend on them to give us that innate sense of safety we want. We do not depend on them to give us that innate sense of meaning that we want. But we use them nonetheless. Okay, we use the wealth, we use the image, but without having to destroy our own integrity, without having to damage our integrity to do so. All right, so yes, of course, after having taken refuge in a formal way, then there's a promise to actually, it's something that we have to do all the time. It's not something you do once and then that's it, but rather it's a commitment to change our lives. It's a commitment to reorient the direction that we were moving. Okay, so we change our behavior, we change how we respond to, how we react to experiences. We seek to have a more direct experience of reality. We determine to be more honest with our experiences, and acknowledge when what we think is knowledge is when we think what we think is knowledge, at least we are open that it may be just a projection. It may be just a coping mechanism that psychologically that we because of our misunderstanding that we developed to deal with the world, with reality. Yeah. So you will find a list. Okay, now that you've taken refuge in the Buddha, do this. Now that you've taken refuge in the Dharma, do this. Now that you've taken refuge in the Sangha, do this. And I can tell you that when you make it a habit, before you do anything, before you engage in anything, remind yourself that ultimately it's not this thing that's going to give me the satisfaction. Ultimately, it's not this thing that is going to give me the sense of meaning. But you engage, you do it anyway with that understanding. Okay. And of course, what you are preventing is that you're preventing being discouraged in the future, being attached. If it seems to be, if there's the illusion that it gave you the safety, there's the illusion that it gave you the sense of meaning, but that's going to collapse eventually because it is based on something that is unstable. Okay. Now, this experience of existence, of encountering unstable, unreliable thing, where does that come from? And that's where the topic of karma comes in. And this is where I really want you to ask questions. And if you want to engage me with asking questions about refuge, maybe there's something that you would like to know that I didn't quite get to. I know there's a lot more details we can go into in terms of refuge. But let me jump into karma. So first, karma is, the Buddha himself said it, by karma, I mean intention. Okay, so that itself sort of narrows it down for us. Okay, karma equals intention. That's it. Now, our intentions, you could say, place us to have various experiences in various ways. So when one engages intentionally in an activity, that creates a pattern, that creates almost like a magnetic seed, so to speak. So a seed that says, this is what I want to continue to do, basically to perpetuate a habit. Okay. And to perpetuate the habit, it will attract towards it or towards the person the things that will help perpetuate that habit. Okay. And then it will color the way perception takes place. Now, you've seen this before. You know people who go into a room and they see a bunch of enemies, and then because they see a bunch of enemies, they act as if everyone is already an enemy. Either they are defensive with everything that is said, or they want to protect themselves by attacking. And there are people who enter into a space, and they're both delusions per se, right? Who say everybody's my friend, and someone could be insulting them, and they say, "Oh," and they laugh at the insult with them. Okay, they're both kind of delusional. They're not really dealing with reality as it is, but they enter it with coloring the environment because of their predispositions from habits. Okay. The thing to understand, you were right in some way about the way you understand certain things, and then you were right to question because it wasn't complete. I'll say it this way. Remember the different realms that we experience, how we experience reality. There's the hellish realm, there's the heavenly realm, there's the human realm, and then there are other kinds of realms. Okay? Actually, there are two kinds of ways of experiencing reality, your existence. There is what you might call a totally karmic causality. And that's where a lot of people get confused. A lot of people think karma means everything, every experience is connected to karma. And that is one of the things that the Buddha was vehemently against, because that was there were many schools were presenting that, and the Buddha was against that. Not everything that you experience is necessarily karma, but karma definitely determines a lot of our experiences, how we experience reality. And yes, some people refuse to see hell realms and heavenly realms as actual places, like a planet you can take a spaceship to, or some dimension that you can travel into. Uh, and you are correct to say that there are inner experiences, but you are not entirely correct to think that they were just hallucinations. They're not hallucinations the way we understand hallucination, where you're sitting in a room and you all do your mushroom. Come on, yeah, I know you. You did the mushrooms. And you each enter into your own kind of universe where you're hallucinating some reality. So hell is not like that. Okay? It's not like you're sitting in your living room and then all of a sudden you're in hell and you come out and you thought that a million years went by. Okay, that's an hallucination. What they're referring to as hell is like this, the the conditions, after the conditions holding this form, this way of being, come to an end. What you experience, what people call you died, then you, if it's a hellish rebirth, it's not that you are transported to some dimension or to some realm where there are people waiting for you per se, but it is everything. The kind of body you have, the kind of mind that you have, the environment, the details of your environment. If you're seeing mountains, if you're seeing lakes of fire, if you're seeing other beings there, it's like it's very much like a dream, where in your dream, the mountains, the people that you encounter, they're all part of your own creation. So hellish experiences are like that. It's like when the person dies, their tendencies towards attachment towards hatred, attachment towards strong anger, that tendency creates, I guess you could say, a Bardo-like existence where they experience extreme suffering. And every detail is karmically created. That's for hells and that's for heavens. Okay? Now, our world, the world of the human realm, where there are oceans and planets and galaxies and laws of nature, laws of biology, DNA, genetic, where there are volcanoes, tectonic plates, weather, climate. These are not created by your karma. Okay? I know there's a lot of, and this is not my understanding of it. I would say it is my acceptance, but it's not just my understanding that I'm presenting. It is Lamrim. It is in the very Lamrim. Jason Kappa explains it, the different causalities. So you could say human realm exists in a multi-causal environment. There are laws that interact with each other, but they operate they operate somewhat independently of each other. That is, for example, the law of gravity, or that which governs gravity, that which governs thermodynamics, the speed of light. These things are not determined by your moral karma. Your karma is not determining the speed of light. Your karma is not determining how tectonic plates move. Your karma does not determine the weather. Okay? These things have their own causality, physical causality, responsible for them. Okay? And also your biology is determined by, your genetics. It's determined by DNA. It's determined by the laws governing bodies. Now, if you say it is your karma to be born in a body that has a certain genetic predisposition, but it's not the karma that created your DNA. It's not your karma that created your the fact that the body is aging. It's not the karma that's created the fact that the body will one day decay. That is operating on its own causality because of interdependence. Okay. So there are these multi-causalities taking place within the human realm, which is what you might call the human realm. And there are, and you could say, there might be other human kinds, humans similar to human species. I mean, there are other kinds of beings. I don't know them. I never met them. They never came to me. Who also exist in multi causality worlds. Okay, so it's interesting that perhaps the Sanskritis here will help. The words that they use, there's a different word for the world that we live in, as in the planet, and there's a different word that he used for when they say the world that your karma makes you born into. It's loka, and loka is like it's more related to how we experience the world, not the physical world that we find ourselves in. Okay, so it's not so much that, and that's why it is said that to understand the refinements of karma is, it's even more intricate, more subtle than understanding emptiness. Okay, these laws, like for example, the gravity is having an effect on us. So there is an interaction taking place, but it's not my karma that determines how the gravity is pulling me, and then your karma is determining how gravity is pulling you. And if we were to go to Mars or go to some other planet, your karma will determine how Mars' gravity will act towards you, and then my karma will determine how. So I will experience less karma, you experience, more gravity, you experience less gravity. Karma, that's not how the karma that is being presented here is simply what you might call experiences or tendencies and a predisposition on how to respond to the world. Predispositions on how to respond to the world. Okay. And a question would like, for example, you because of generosity doesn't mean that you are necessarily reborn into a wealthy family, but you are predispositioned to be a magnet for resources. Like you could be born in a poorest family ever, but you may have the predisposition for wealth, where somehow your predisposition makes you are able to find means of actually getting to wealth. Okay, or you can even be born into a wealthy family, but because of your predisposition, you end up wasting everything. You end up being poor. Okay, but being born in a the rich family or the poor family wasn't created by your karma. Okay, and the reason for understanding it this way is to understand agency in the proper way. Okay, I know there are people who understand karma in this very what you call it, mono causal thing, where they think that their karma actually created the sky, how the sky behaves, whether it snows or doesn't snow. Their karma is directly responsible for the fact that there's a war going on in the various parts of the world, that their karma itself has created it. And what that does, it creates a certain kind of isolation. It makes you it is impossible for you to actually engage others. Relating relating with others is actually impossible because there is no other. It's just you in your dream, having your dream characters performing their dream duties. Okay. So it doesn't matter if you're generous to your dream character or if you kill a dream character, because it's just you in your mind. Right? Now, when the Buddha said karma equals intention, do not understand intention the way we understand intention in English. Okay, intention seems the way we understand it with the English language, I have to say, is it's the deliberation that goes on in the mind, like planning to do something. That is only part of intention. Your emotions that drives you to do a certain action, that's also under intention. So intention can be conscious or subconscious or unconscious. Intention doesn't necessarily have to be just the surface planning to do something. Okay, and that's why we have to be very careful. So your karma did not create the universe. It's not your karma that's making the planets behave the way they're behaving. The stars are not shining because you're looking in that direction and your karma creates put a blinking light there. It's not your karma doing that. Okay. Now, this sort of brings us into a lot of questions. Okay. Then it seems like the human world is the real world, and the hell realm and the heaven world, they're not real as the human realm is, because they are experiencing completely their own fabrication, and we are experiencing some of our fabrications, only our experience and tendencies. And this explanation, this understanding of karma, will help us also understand why this is a self-validation. Excuse me. Why to say that, oh, thank goodness for suffering. If it wasn't for suffering, I would not grow. It's not, suffering is not the cause that's making you grow, but rather your predisposition and how you respond to suffering will determine whether you will grow or not. So it's not the suffering that is causing growth. If that is the truth, then let loose all criminals, especially the worst ones, because they will help us grow. Will they beat us up? When it causes us suffering, you could say, thank you. Oh, I'm growing now. Okay? Let them loose. Be a bodhisattva. Help people grow. Let loose all the criminals. Let loose all the people who want to harm others. Okay? Because if that is indeed what causes growth, what causes growth is predisposition to use situations in a way that is skillful. If you do not have this predisposition, it only creates further. I mean, we've all, I mean, all the movies about some criminal mind, it all started with some suffering that they endured when they were very young. If suffering makes saints out of people, how come it makes criminals out of those people? Okay. So if you have the comic predisposition and the right orientation towards objects that can provide true safety, true meaning, then no matter what condition you encounter, you can always use it as a means for growth. Okay. And lastly, before I stop monopolizing, oh my goodness, I monopolize. uh, uh, karma, yes, the ground. In a meditation, I pointed to something called the ground. I pointed to this fundamental ground, and it is the fundamental ground that is experienced as the physical world. It is the fundamental ground that is experienced as consciousness or awareness. But the fundamental ground itself is not just some sort of physicality. It's not itself some sort of awareness. It's just that, but it is not awareness. It is not some sort of physicality. It is something beyond them that makes it possible for the universe as we know it to be, and for those who experience the universe to also be, for beings to be. And taking, reorienting yourself towards that understanding is taking ultimate refuge, where you understand that ultimately your identity is created in the sense that it is conditional. And things that are conditional, things that come and go, cannot provide safety. Things that come and go cannot provide meaning. But that fundamental ground, that fundamental, I almost said essence, but I stayed away from it. That fundamental ground is what is experienced as samsara or sangsar, is what is experienced as nirvana. Okay. It is not a being, but it is the potential for being. It is not location, it is the potential for location. So if we find ourselves asking the question, oh, where does that come from? Then we completely miss the picture. We completely miss what was said. Because the very question is something that can only be formed within the field of conditionality. So how can something abiding within the field of condition exists because of the field of conditionality experience something outside of itself? That's what we are asking when we ask, where does existence come from? This is the very last thing. Okay, I promise. It's a thought experiment. Imagine if it was possible that we can find ourselves existing out of space-time. Okay, out of space-time. However space is experienced, however time is experienced, we're out of it. So we're not in a space and we're not in time. right? But as soon as we enter space-time, then we begin to experience space-time. Then we can say, oh, I entered space-time relevant to this that was already here and these that were not here yet. And that's and then it seems like you came into existence at a certain time within a certain location. But that's only because that is the nature of space-time, to experience space-time. So to ask a question about what is the origin, it is because we perceive, oh, that wasn't here yesterday. Now it's here. So we experience something that within space-time called originating, and we think all of existence itself has that quality of once originating. That question of once originating or not originating is completely meaningless to the true nature of space-time. Okay? It's like, was there a time before time? The question doesn't make sense. And where was space before space? That doesn't make sense. But to rather understand that we are completely interwoven into existence. We are existence. And we do have agency. But we have agency within a particular condition. We can have an experience of extracting ourselves out of space-time, but exactly what that is, we can only answer within space-time. But since it is not space-time, what are we going to use? So let's not even try to put it into words. Okay. All right. Sorry if you were burning to have a question and you were waiting for me to take a pause. And I did take that pause. So bring your questions. Can someone read that for me? Even though I'm wearing glasses, you don't want to see my forehead hitting the screen so I can read it.
I saw, you want to ask?
Okay, go ahead.
Maybe Harris would ask the question because it was his question.
Oh,
Now
okay.
I was gonna ask. Oh, thanks, Cheryl. Like I was gonna ask Phuntsok, is affirmation a better word for prayer in the Buddhist context?
Yeah, I would say affirmations. It would be a better word for prayer, because the word itself, prayer, has such loaded with a cultural embedded meaning that it's difficult to extract the meaning from the word. So affirmation would I think would be better suited. Yeah.
An affirmation gives some agency too, I suppose, right?
Yeah, because there's always agency taking place. Yeah. Okay. All right. Come on, people. You fully understand karma? You have no questions? Yes.
So how do we then practice with this? Like not just karma, but all the things that we've been discussing in the Lamrim as like foundational, because I mean there's so many foundational with like the Gondro and the Lamrim and mind training things. So like how best to practice what we're receiving right now in our daily practice? Refuge seems pretty obvious, but like karma.
Yeah. And with the takeaway for karma is essentially once you've determined, okay, I recognize that there is a better way to exist, but I have to start doing things, change my perspectives, change my behavior, change how I relate with the beings that I encounter, with the environment that I encounter. I have to begin to do something, and then to know that effort will bring about results. So one of the causalities that is, so karma is just one of the causalities that we experience, and that mainly is about how we experience, okay, and how we experience the relationship with the different laws also. And one of the thing is one of the laws, one of the causalities is the interdependence itself is its own sort of causality. Like when certain conditions are present and you introduce something to it, then this will be the effect. So when we understand that, then it strengthens our faith and our conviction that even though I said the mantra 100,000 times, or I did the acts of generosity, I can't remember, I don't see any results yet, that we do not become discouraged, that these definitely have created potentials for definite experiences. And it's what Milarepa, I forgot exactly, I have to find out exactly who Milarepa said this to. Someone was praising Milarepa, saying, "Oh my goodness, with all these abilities that you're exhibiting, you must be some deity from some realm somewhere." And Milarepa said, "Oh my goodness, you have no faith in karma. You don't believe that someone can actually develop themselves to exhibit these, that they can go through a transformation and actually end up with these abilities and capacities." Okay, so it is to encourage us. The main reason, you will encounter difficulties. You will encounter situations where you will be tempted to give up, where you will be tempted to become disheartened. When the foundation on karma is strong, and that will give you the resilience you need to continue to forge ahead. Okay. And when we understand that I do not know the full details of how karma interacts with my environment, how to what degree does it make me participate, but I know that agency, intention will determine how I experience reality. Okay, so it's to help us keep on going. And when we have conviction in the possibility of being enlightened, when we have the conviction in the possibility that there exists a path to enlightenment, and we're not alone, that gives us that takes care of the sense of being alone, that takes care of attachment to false ideas, false identities, because a lot of times, most of us, we grab on our identity is built on traumatic experiences, habits of reactivity. So three jewels are there to remind us that there are holistic ways of existing, of being, that we are not doomed to perpetually identify with trauma only, with reactivity only. Okay. Well, that was a long answer, sorry.
That was great. Thank you.
Okay.
So also, Phuntsok, then the interdependence is applicable for the external world, for weather, for the tectonic plates as well, too, right? Meaning,
Oh, yes.
so those things arise in dependence on each other, or is it just the cognition again, that's where it gets pretty tricky, right? Like, is it the cognition that is actually identifying the interdependence? And if that is the case, then everything is inherently empty. I don't know. It's going along those in other words, like the interdependence of your own processes is not truly, isolated. It is in connection with what the world is, right? So it's kind of like trying to reconcile those two things, because it's easy to go to the either extreme, to say everything is outside my control and I'm
Mm-hmm.
also a part of the great biological reaction that's going on,
Mm-hmm.
or the other is everything is my figment of imagination.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
Yeah.
that's the middle way, I don't know, but it's like, that's usually the difficulty. And I kind of have the same question when you try to experience or try to have experiential, you know, I don't know, for the lack of a better word, evidence of
Mm-hmm.
karma operating, you probably have to engage in deep meditative practices. I don't know. Or what would you do?
Oh yeah, definitely. Uh, for now, I guess that's also related to the previous question uh, in terms of what to do, how to meditate on this. So the meditation is to is mainly contemplation, where you're contemplating causality in terms of what you have observed, uh, and causality in terms of what is how reality is explained from a certain perspective. Uh, then eventually you arrive at conviction that there are consequences, there are results of actions. Um, and then, of course, begin by sort of like separating all of them as if they are they're their own universes. But the interdependence itself is like the bedrock that all of them all these kinds of causality exist because of. It is because of the bedrock of interdependence that you have karmic causality, you have genetic causality, because you have laws of physics causality, and so on and so forth. So interdependence is the bedrock that explains these different kinds of causalities. In terms of personal relationship with these different laws, there we do interrelate, we do relate with each other, but our relationship is not cause and effect relationship. It's not that our imagination is causing them, but they can affect us where we respond a certain way. You can be angry at gravity if you want to. Okay.
Yeah. And also, yeah, I was going to ask something else, but then it'll come back.
Okay. All right. Question. There's a MJ raised a hand that I can see.
Yes, thank you so much, Phuntsok. I'm sorry I can't be on the camera. It's on the blink. Um, I have this question. It's something that's come up. I hear people talk about it. It happened to me, this type of question. Uh, and if you could maybe speak to it, might help me better understand some of the things that you shared this evening.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of sort of simple, but not so simple. Um, I have a family member who, um, before the age of 18, just developed type 1 diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot that's not known, about type 1 diabetes.
Mm-hmm.
And even I had a hard time understanding it. Wasn't genetic. It wasn't something that um, it was actually my child that something in my DNA that caused this to happen.
Mm-hmm.
And I was speaking to someone who, in uh, a healer, so to speak, and and I've heard this many times since then, before and since then, and they suggested that, oh, that this individual uh, had created this themselves, that there's something within them that created this illness. And I've encountered quite a few people that kind of have this belief. And I know there's, and then another side of this though is when they do pharmaceutical studies, they take they give, you know, say 100 people the new pill that they've created, and they give 100 people a gosh, I can't remember the name of the other pill, but it's a pretend pill.
Placebo?
Yes, thank you, a placebo. And so they study it that way. And then there is the thing called the placebo effect, where someone could have an actual, or it's understood that maybe somebody has an actual an illness of some sort, and through the placebo effect, it changes that illness, or it heals that illness. And so I've got all these different examples kind of rolling in my mind, and as you shared about karma, and I think that that's what was suggested for this individual that had type 1 diabetes, that it was like their karma, and that they had created that themselves.
Okay, yeah. That is a way that karma, topic of karma, is talked about. And what it does is that it ends up assigning blame for experiences. The purpose of karma is not to assign blame, but rather to simply come to understand that what we experience, what the results, the various results that we perceive, they have their various causes. It's not so much that, I mean, it is possible that there's a strong karma that attracted to itself the necessary biological conditions to create this kind of a disease. That's possible. But the thing is, we can't really know. The person who says that, they either have some direct perception of these kinds of things, which I don't think that too many people have. But the thing is, yes, there is these sort of like a karmic predisposition to have to be in that body, but not necessarily to create that disease per se. Not necessarily. The reason I'm saying that, it could be, let's say, being A and being B were at the vicinity of this body when it was forming, and it didn't matter whether it was being A or being B who ended up being in the body. They will both experience they will either one of them would experience the disease in that body. So it's not necessarily that, it's not because remember, karma is mostly, as it is presented, is mostly moral. So when we say I have this disease because of some moral lapse in my past life, that it's not that it is absolutely not the case, never the case, but it's not always the case. Okay, and if it is indeed some sort of moral lapse, then this person can do some purification practices where they purify moral lapses of previous lives. Well, remember, the Buddha himself said, not everything that we experience in this life is necessarily a result coming from past lives. There are the conditions of this life also. If all human beings continue to the way we are going nicely towards planet destruction, and we continue to poison the bodies that we have with fake food, and eventually the body will be very weak, and the beings will end up inheriting the DNA the inherited DNA will end up experiencing, weak bodies and experiencing certain kinds of diseases because of these kinds of bodies. But it's not necessarily because this is some sort of a retribution for some moral lapse in the past necessarily. Okay, not necessarily. It could be, and if it is, then if one engages in certain kind of purification practices, then they can purify that seed, so to speak. So the experience can be less. But also, can also mean that uh, um someone discovers some sort of biological conditioning for that, and then they're able to make adjustment, and then the person becomes free of that disease. Okay. The thing is the purpose of the topic, the teaching of karma, is empowering. So there is ethics. There is for taking agency in how we behave. It is to make us embody the principles of interconnectedness, understanding that, and also to empower us so that no matter what we are experiencing, we do not allow it to dictate our identity. So you could say that is, in terms of the purpose of the teaching of karma, is for that. That's the purpose of it. It's not to assign blame to ourselves, so we become either just wallowing in some sort of dysfunctional guilt where we're not able to arise or overcome. And it's not your DNA per se, as if you created the DNA and now look what you've done. You've given the person this DNA that's yours. And it's not their DNA in the sense that their karma somehow manufactured the kind of DNA that they have. The thing is, no matter what we're experiencing, they're all conditions to be able to overcome. Our true refuge is that our true safety, our true what gives us meaning in life is that fundamental enlightened nature. If we identify with that instead, then I'll quickly say this thing about one of the things that happens with death, right? Remember, at the time of death, there are actually, when we are meditating on death, there is the possibility of doing it in the wrong way, where we are doing regret, like we are imagining, okay, and I'm gonna die. Okay, what do I regret? There's a possibility of going the wrong way, where we say, oh, I regret that I didn't have a PhD. I regret that I didn't amass that fortune. I regret. These are the wrong things to regret. That's wrong death meditation, because at the actual moment of death, that is not what you're going to be regretting. What we will be regretting is, did I stay true to my did I stay true to my did I keep my integrity when situations came for me to be kind? Did I act out of kindness? When a situation came for me to be compassionate, did I act out of compassion? These are the real thing. These are the things that we of true meaning, of true value to us. It's not so much I regret I was born sick, or I regret I was born healthy, but rather, what did I do with that? That is what we will really be regretting. It's because I was born in that place, I regret I was born in that place, and then I wasn't able to do this or that. That is not what we will be regretting at those moments. And the reason for saying that is to that is sort of like a result of wrong refuge, trying to anchor our sense of feeling of safety, our trying to anchor our what would give us a sense of meaning in life, anchoring those on things that are incapable of doing so. And one of the reasons to seek to overcome all these samsaric kind of existence is that none of these samsaric things are reliable. This kind of samsaric body is unreliable. And these are the experiences that it can give when it is engaged from a place of not understanding. So the answer is that experiences are not causal. Many different things come together to create an experience. Partly karmic, in the sense that karma made them born into that kind of body. Partly genetic, maybe at this specific turn of combination of genetic combination, it creates a certain kind of degradation in the genetics, where it's not necessarily the mother had it or the father had it, but somehow something within their genetics, when with this kind of combination, creates this kind of genetic environment. And that is the body's own sort of law or causality. It's not that the morality of the being inhabiting it that has necessarily created it. I hope that addresses the question to some degree, but definitely not fully.
I thank you so much. I very much appreciate what you've shared.
Yeah, thank you. Oh my goodness, I forgot there's something called collective karma. We're not gonna get into that. If you think just the karma I just mentioned was difficult enough, now collective karma is just and I'm not gonna go into it. I'm just gonna tell you there's something called collective karma. It's basically shared perceptions, shared experiences. That's it. And definitely not gonna go into that. So don't ask questions about collective karma. All right. It's really, whoa, oh my goodness. All right. All right. Thank you very much for your patience. It's really been, way over time. And if you, since this is a really deep topic, because it determines, refuge and karma determines whether you're going to be on the path or not. The strength to which you have conviction about them, the strength to which you have understanding about them, that will determine how strongly you will be on the path. Okay. So make sure you have a real sense of understanding and make it realistic. Okay, let your questions be organic. Don't think they are wrong questions in terms of seeking to understand. All right. And if you have questions, of course, I was going to say that you can email me. Okay. Don't email Phuntsok@thuptenphuntsok.com. I rarely look over there. When I go back, oh my goodness, somebody asked me a question a month ago. I have too many email addresses. But the one that I look at most of the time is tphuntsok@gmail.com. tphuntsok@gmail. Maybe is that what? No, never mind. Okay. All right then. Thank you very much, everyone. Sorry for those of you who had questions you didn't have a chance to ask. And we will continue. Now we're going to get into the sexy topics of the Lamrim coming up. All right, let's end with a meditation. Have the intention to enter meditation. Feel the different dimensions of your being responding to this intention. And if you can remember how it felt, since it was not so long ago when you were in meditation, just the remembrance of it will begin to give you a taste of meditation again. And let's take a nice deep breath to stabilize this and deepen it. Gently, fully breathe in, release. And as you release, just let yourself meld into that experience, deeper into the calm, deeper into the pleasantness, deeper into clarity and radiance, deeper into free. And the way we end, we are sitting in a circle. Even if you're watching this in your closet, the closet is big enough that all of us sit in there without the closet expanding, without us having to shrink. We're all comfortable in there. And an understanding about the fluidity of identity, of self, and beginning with this very body, this mind, all these different components all make self. And when the left helps the right, it doesn't say I'm helping the right, but I'm helping myself. And we extend this understanding towards each other, developing a sort of an impulse, ready to help the other, me helping me. And this understanding creates an appearance in the center of our circle, a bright presence. And as our sense of self, confined to just this body and mind, melts, the presence expands, becomes brighter, absorbing into it all that it touches, creating just one appearance of that brightness. It expands, takes on your neighbors, your neighborhood, your city, until all reality is within that one shining presence. And within that shining presence, we have this understanding, this impulse, helping the mountain is helping me, helping the trees is helping me, helping the ocean is helping me, helping animals is helping me, helping the sky is helping me, helping my neighbor is helping me. And when this becomes so stable, we no longer need the appearance of this one luminous presence erasing all appearances. Now it shrinks, and that it shrinks. Whatever comes out of it, whatever is uncovered by it, the mountains, the oceans, they maintain that sense of connection. And it comes to the center again, and as it comes to the center, think of our innate wisdom, to what degree we were able to understand, to what degree, what potential of understanding that we have create within ourselves. And we give thanks, offer the mandala, everything that I consider valuable, everything that is considered valuable by any being, precious, material, subjective, internal, all of them, I offer as a sign of gratitude to the understanding that arose within me, and that the potential for the understanding that is within me. And that ball of presence that is in the center now splits into rays of light, enters into each one of our hearts, and we form the determination: when I sincerely help myself, I help all. When I help all sincerely, I help myself. And just rest in a space of meditation, noticing the signs, rejoicing. And with the intention to come out, take a nice deep breath. And as you release it, feel yourself reconnecting with your immediate surroundings through the sense of touch, the temperature, the clothing, the different sounds, lights, shadows, colors, shapes. Okay. All right, I'm not going to make that sound that I make at the end. And somehow you're supposed to know it, but nobody ever know what sound I'm making. You know, back in the day when TV was a family thing. Yes, some of you probably don't know that. There was a time when there was one TV and there were specific channels, maybe like there were less than 100. I don't remember exactly the number, but they're less than 100. And you had to compromise what to watch because not everybody can stream whatever they wanted on their device. And there were these things called game shows. And at the end of the game shows, there were always these sort of like theme music that tells you the show ended. And that's the sound I was trying to make at the end of these things. Okay? Okay, one more time. Da 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 da. Thank you. And
Thank you,
until
Buddha.
next time. Thank you.
Thank you.